I'm Hazel Reynolds, 29, and last Tuesday I discovered my sister Madison had emptied my bank account of $43,000 to fund her extravagant wedding. When confronted, she just laughed in my face. "What are you going to do?" "See your own sister." The smug look on her face made my blood boil. Little did she know I was holding onto a secret about her precious fiancé Nathan that could shatter her perfect wedding dreams. Sometimes the person who hurts you most is the one who's supposed to love you unconditionally. Before I dive into this family nightmare, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that like button if you've ever had a toxic family member, and subscribe to join our community of survivors who've learned to stand up for themselves. Madison and I grew up in a modest three-bedroom house in Lexington, Massachusetts, just outside Boston. For years my senior, Madison was always the golden child of the family, beautiful, popular, and charismatic. While she effortlessly attracted attention and praise, I was the quieter sister, the responsible one who followed rules and tried desperately to earn the same adoration our parents lavished on Madison. Our childhood photos tell the story, Madison front and center at every family gathering, wearing the brightest clothes and widest smile, while I stood slightly off to the side, usually in Madison's hand-me-downs. My parents never tried to hide their favoritism. "Your sister just has that special something," my mother would say when Madison was awarded privileges I was denied despite better behavior. When I was 13, our family dynamic fractured even further. I still remember the night my father announced he was leaving. Madison locked herself in her room, screaming and crying dramatically until both parents were outside her door, begging her to come out, completely forgetting my existence downstairs. That pattern would continue throughout the divorce. Madison's feelings were paramount, mine barely registered. The divorce strained our already tight finances. My mother took on a second job, and my father's child support payments were often late. Yet somehow, there was always money for Madison's dance competitions, prom dresses, and eventually, her college tuition. Meanwhile, I started babysitting at 14, then working retail at 16, saving every dollar I could. "You're just more responsible with money," my mother would say when I questioned the disparity. "Madison needs more help." This twisted logic followed us into adulthood. I worked 2 jobs through state college to avoid student loans, while Madison attended a private university on my parents' dime. She changed majors 3 times, took 6 years to graduate, and still emerged with a degree in communications that she barely used. Instead, she bounced between jobs that couldn't sustain her lifestyle, but somehow always managed to live in trendy apartments and wear designer clothes. The source of her mysterious income became clear over Sunday dinners. "Your father helped me with the security deposit," or "Mom loaned me money for the car repair." Loans that, as far as I knew, were never repaid. Despite this, I built a life for myself. After college, I secured a position at a digital marketing agency in Boston, worked relentlessly for promotions, and saved aggressively. By 29, I had managed to accumulate just over $43,000, money earmarked for a down payment on a small condo. Financial independence was my dream, my protection against ending up like my mother after the divorce, financially devastated and emotionally broken. Last Christmas, our family gathered at my parents' house for the first time in years. Madison arrived 3 hours late, bursting through the door with a tall, handsome man in an expensive suit. "Everyone, this is Nathan Blake," she announced, flashing a massive diamond ring. "We're engaged." Nathan was charming and polished, the kind of man who knew exactly what to say to impress. He ran a successful real estate development company, lived in a penthouse downtown, and drove a car that cost more than my annual salary. My parents were instantly enamored. But something about Nathan struck me as off. Perhaps it was the way his smile never quite reached his eyes, or how he subtly checked his phone whenever Madison wasn't looking. I dismissed these thoughts as petty jealousy. After all, Madison always got the best of everything. Why would her choice in men be any different? Throughout dinner, Madison dominated the conversation with elaborate wedding plans. A ceremony at the Fairmont Copley Plaza, a designer gown, exotic flowers flown in from South America. "How much will all this cost?" I asked innocently. You wouldn't believe it if I told you, Madison laughed, exchanging knowing glances with Nathan. But Nathan says I deserve the best. Later, while helping my mother with dishes, I overheard Nathan taking a call in the hallway, his voice low and intimate. I'll handle it, baby. She doesn't suspect anything. When he returned to the living room, his arm draped possessively around Madison's shoulders, I couldn't shake the feeling that my sister was making a terrible mistake. But Madison had never heeded my warnings before, and I doubted she would start now. So I kept quiet, unaware that in just 3 months, our tenuous sisterly bond would be shattered beyond repair. The morning it happened started like any other Tuesday. I woke at 6:15 a.m., made coffee, and scrolled through emails before showering for work. Then my phone pinged with a banking alert. Unusual activity detected on your account. Annoyed but not alarmed, I opened my banking app, expecting to see a mistaken charge for $20. Instead, I froze as the screen loaded. Where my carefully accumulated $43,127.89 should have been, the balance showed $212.34. My hands shook so badly I could barely navigate to the transaction history. There it was, transfer to Madison Reynolds, $42,915.55, dated yesterday at 3:42 p.m. The room spun. This had to be a mistake. I called the bank's emergency line, barely able to form coherent sentences as I explained the situation to the representative. I'm sorry, Ms. Reynolds, but this transfer was authorized using your online banking credentials, the calm voice explained. The authentication code was sent to your phone and correctly entered. That's when I remembered. 3 days ago, Madison had called, claiming she needed my account information to transfer a small engagement gift from our grandmother. She'd asked me to forward her the authentication code, saying Grandma had mixed up our accounts. Like an idiot, I'd complied without question. Can you reverse it? I pleaded. Since you authorized the transfer, you'd need to file a police report alleging fraud, the representative explained. Police report. Against my own sister. My throat closed as the full implication hit me. I called in sick to work, jumped in my car, and drove the 15 minutes to Madison's luxury apartment building in a fog of disbelief and rage. The doorman recognized me and waved me up, unaware he was admitting a woman on the verge of assault. Madison answered the door in silk pajamas, her perfect blonde hair somehow immaculate despite the early hour. Her surprise at seeing me quickly morphed into something else, wariness mixed with defiance. What are you doing here so early? She asked, blocking the entrance. Where's my money, Madison? My voice was eerily calm, belying the hurricane inside me. Her expression hardened. You might as well come in. Nathan was apparently at the office already, though I noticed a man's watch on the coffee table that I'd never seen before. The apartment was strewn with wedding magazines, fabric swatches, and floral arrangement photos. Did you really think I wouldn't notice $43,000 missing from my account? I demanded once the door closed. Madison sighed dramatically, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. I was going to tell you. Tell me what? That you stole my life savings? Don't be so melodramatic, Hazel. I borrowed it. There's a difference. Borrowing involves asking permission. Madison rolled her eyes. Would you have said yes? Of course not. That's my house down payment. Exactly. And that's why I didn't ask. She flopped onto her white leather couch, examining her manicure. Look, the wedding venue needed a deposit immediately or we'd lose our date. Nathan's business is asset-rich, but cash flow tight right now. It was an emergency. So you steal from me? Your own sister. My voice cracked with hurt. The Fairmont Copley Plaza, Vera Wang gown, Michelin-starred catering, it all adds up. The total wedding budget is $99,000. I gasped. $99,000? Are you insane? It's what Nathan and I deserve. Besides, you have a good job. You can save it again. It took me 7 years to save that money. Madison stood up, suddenly angry. Why are you being so selfish? This is my special day. The most important day of my life. And that justifies theft? She laughed then, a cold sound I'd never heard from her before. What are you going to do? See your own sister? File a police report? Mom and Dad would never forgive you for ruining the wedding. The casual cruelty, the absolute certainty that our parents would take her side, it felt like a physical blow. You need to return my money. Today. I fought to keep my voice steady. Madison's eyes narrowed. Or what? Or I'll tell Nathan exactly where his wedding money really came from. A flicker of concern crossed her face, quickly replaced by confidence. Nathan doesn't care. He knows family helps family. Does he? Let's call him right now. I reached for my phone, but Madison grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Don't you dare. This is between us. No, Madison. You made it between me, you, and my bank account. Nathan should be involved too, don't you think? You've always been jealous of me, she hissed. You can't stand that I'm finally happy that I found someone successful and gorgeous who wants to give me everything you'll never have. Her words were designed to hurt, to hit old insecurities. And they did. But beneath the pain was something new. Rage at the injustice, at being exploited once again by the sister I'd spent a lifetime trying to please. Return my money by the end of the week, I said quietly, or I promise you'll regret it. Madison's laugh followed me out the door. Good luck with that, little sister. We both know you've never stood up to anyone in your life. I made it to my car before the tears came, hot and bitter. She was right. I had always backed down, always accepted less, always forgiven Madison's transgressions in the desperate hope of earning her love and my parents' approval. But not this time. This time, I had something Madison didn't know about. Something that could bring her perfect wedding fantasy crashing down around her. I drove aimlessly through Boston's morning traffic, tears blurring my vision until I finally pulled over in a grocery store parking lot. Without thinking, I called Amber, my college roommate, and the only person who truly understood my family dynamics. Come over, she said after hearing my tearful explanation. Now, 30 minutes later, I sat on Amber's couch, wrapped in a blanket despite the spring warmth, clutching a mug of tea that had long gone cold. You need to tell her, Amber said firmly after I'd recounted the morning's events. About Chicago. The memory I'd been suppressing bubbled to the surface. 3 months ago, I'd attended a digital marketing conference in Chicago. The company had splurged on accommodations at the Langham Hotel, a luxury I rarely experienced. After a day of workshops, I'd headed to the hotel bar for a much-needed drink. That's when I saw him. Nathan Blake, my sister's fiancé of just 2 weeks, sitting in a dark corner with a woman who definitely wasn't Madison. They weren't just talking. His hand rested possessively on her thigh, his lips occasionally brushing her ear as she giggled and leaned into him. I'd frozen, wine glass halfway to my lips, unsure what to do. Then I overheard a snippet of their conversation. What about your fiancé? The woman asked, twirling her dark hair around one finger. Nathan's laugh was dismissive. Madison? She's convenient right now. Good family, looks great on my arm at business functions. But I'm keeping my options open. He kissed her then, not a friendly peck, but a deep, intimate kiss that left no doubt about their relationship. My stomach had churned with disgust. I considered confronting him, taking photos as evidence, calling Madison immediately. But before I could decide, Nathan glanced up and saw me. Recognition dawned in his eyes, followed by something cold and calculating. He'd excused himself from his companion and approached my table with the smooth confidence of a man accustomed to talking his way out of difficult situations. Hazel, what a surprise, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. Madison mentioned you were at a conference, but I had no idea it was here. Apparently there are a lot of things Madison doesn't know, I replied, nodding toward the woman now checking her phone. That's Kristen, a business associate. We're discussing a potential investment property. His lie was so effortless it was almost impressive. Is that what they're calling it these days? His charming facade slipped for just a moment, revealing something harder underneath. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. Look, Hazel, I understand how this appears. But I love your sister. What you saw was a momentary lapse in judgment. One that will never happen again. He scribbled something and slid a check across the table. $5,000. For your discretion. I stared at the check, equal parts shocked and offended. You're trying to bribe me to hide your cheating from my sister? I'm compensating you for your understanding during a private moment of weakness. His voice hardened. Madison doesn't need to know about this. It would only hurt her. I pushed the check back toward him. I'm not taking your money. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Everyone has a price, Hazel. I just haven't found yours yet. He'd left then, returning to his business associate as if our conversation had never happened. I spent the rest of the conference avoiding the hotel common areas, sick with indecision. When I returned to Boston, I told myself I would talk to Madison, but the right moment never seemed to arrive. She was so blissfully happy, planning her dream wedding, glowing with what she thought was love. I told myself I was waiting for concrete evidence beyond my word against Nathan's. In reality, I was afraid Madison wouldn't believe me, afraid of being cast as the jealous sister, trying to ruin her happiness. You've been protecting her feelings for months, Amber pointed out, pulling me back to the present. And how does she repay you? By stealing your life savings. I know, I sighed. But exposing Nathan now, after what Madison did, it feels like revenge, not looking out for her. It's both, Amber said bluntly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Madison needs to know what kind of man she's planning to marry, and you need your money back. This solves both problems. Unless she doesn't believe me. Nathan will just deny everything. Then confront him first, Amber suggested. Let him know what you saw, and that unless your money is returned, Madison will hear about Chicago and any other dirt you can dig up. That's blackmail, I protested weakly. No, that's leverage. Madison stole from you. Nathan's cheating on her. You're just making sure everyone faces the consequences of their actions. Amber refilled my tea. For once in your life, Hazel, put yourself first. If not now, when? I stared into my mug, seeing years of deferring to Madison, of sacrificing my needs for family peace, of accepting less than I deserved. Maybe Amber was right. Maybe it was finally time to stand up for myself. Okay, I said finally. I'll confront Nathan tomorrow. What I didn't know then was that this decision would set in motion a chain of events that would forever alter the dynamics of my family and ultimately lead to a painful but necessary reckoning for us all. The following morning, I called Nathan's office from the parking garage of his downtown building, my heart hammering against my ribs. His assistant answered with practiced efficiency. Mr. Blake's office, how may I help you? This is Hazel Reynolds, Madison's sister. I need to speak with Nathan. It's urgent. There was a brief pause. One moment, please. To my surprise, Nathan came on the line almost immediately. Hazel? Is everything all right? Is Madison okay? The concern in his voice for my sister seemed genuine, which only confused me more. How could someone capable of such tender worry also be capable of such blatant infidelity? Madison's fine. I need to speak with you privately. I'm downstairs in your building. Another pause. Come up. 18th floor. My assistant will show you in. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Nathan in his corner office, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. Awards and architectural models adorned glass shelves, testament to his professional success. He looked every inch the prosperous businessman in his tailored suit, casually leaning back in his leather chair as if we were discussing the weather rather than life-altering betrayals. What's this urgent matter, Hazel? I have a meeting in 30 minutes. I met his gaze directly. Madison stole $43,000 from me to pay for your wedding. His practiced composure slipped. What are you talking about? She transferred my entire savings account to herself 3 days ago. When confronted, she said it was for wedding expenses because you're asset-rich, but cash flow tight right now. Nathan's expression transformed from confusion to genuine shock. That's absolutely not true. I never asked Madison to get money from you or anyone else. She said the wedding venue needed a deposit immediately. The Fairmont was booked and paid for 2 months ago. He leaned forward, brow furrowed. Hazel, I had no idea about this. I swear. Something in his reaction made me believe him, which only complicated matters. If Nathan hadn't asked for the money, why had Madison taken it? Madison told me your wedding budget is $99,000, I continued. Nathan laughed humorlessly. Where did she get that figure? We agreed on $50,000, which I'm paying for entirely. Her parents offered to help with the rehearsal dinner, but that was it. This new information threw me. If Nathan was telling the truth, Madison had lied about the wedding costs and Nathan's knowledge of the theft. I find that hard to believe, I said carefully. Madison's never been shy about spending other people's money. Nathan's expression hardened. What exactly are you implying? It was time to play my hand. I saw you in Chicago, Nathan. At the Langham Hotel. With a woman named Kristen. You offered me $5,000 to keep quiet about it. The color drained from his face. For several seconds, he said nothing, just stared at me with an unreadable expression. Then he stood and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. I wondered when you'd use that information, he said quietly. I'm surprised it took you this long. I wasn't planning to use it at all. I was trying to decide whether to tell Madison without involving you. He turned back to face me. And now you're blackmailing me to get your money back. I prefer to think of it as incentivizing honesty, I replied, finding unexpected confidence. Return my money and we can all move forward. Refuse and Madison learns everything before she legally ties herself to you. Something dangerous flashed in Nathan's eyes. Be careful, Hazel. You don't know what you're getting involved in. I know my sister deserves better than a cheating fiancé, whatever her faults. And you think you're protecting her? He laughed coldly. Have you asked yourself why Madison suddenly needs $43,000? Where her designer clothes come from when she barely holds a job? How she affords that apartment? My stomach tightened. What are you saying? Your sister has a gambling problem. And a shopping addiction. She maxed out 3 credit cards I didn't know about. She's been selling items from my apartment to cover her debts. This couldn't be true. Madison had always been frivolous with money, but addiction? That was a leap too far. You're lying, I said, but uncertainty crept into my voice. Nathan unlocked a drawer in his desk and withdrew a folder, sliding it across to me. See for yourself. Inside were credit card statements in Madison's name, showing astronomical balances and minimum payments. Screenshots of online gambling sites. Pawn shop receipts for items I recognized from Nathan's apartment. Email threats from creditors. I discovered this last week, Nathan said, his voice softer now. I was going to confront her after the Watson property closing on Friday. I never expected her to drag you into this mess. My head spun with conflicting emotions. If these documents were genuine, Madison was in serious trouble, far beyond mere financial irresponsibility. But that didn't excuse Nathan's infidelity. This doesn't change what I saw in Chicago, I insisted. No, it doesn't. To my surprise, Nathan didn't try to deny it again. I made a terrible mistake. One I've regretted every day since. Kristen is an ex who caught me at a vulnerable moment when I was first discovering Madison's deceptions. It's no excuse, but it's the truth. So what now? I asked, feeling suddenly exhausted by all the lies and complications. I'll transfer your money back today. You have my word. He returned to his desk, already reaching for his phone. As for Madison and me, I need to rethink everything. As I stood to leave, Nathan looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. For what it's worth, Hazel, I think Madison has always been jealous of you, your stability, your integrity. Things she knows she lacks. I was nearly to the door when my phone rang. Madison's name flashed on the screen. You wouldn't dare tell him, she hissed without preamble, her voice tight with panic. I looked back at Nathan, who was watching me with raised eyebrows. How did you know I was here? The building security guy is a friend. He texted me when you arrived. Her voice cracked. Please, Hazel. Let me explain everything. Not there. At my apartment. Please. The desperation in her voice was so uncharacteristic that it stopped me cold. This wasn't the confident, manipulative Madison I knew. This was someone frightened and cornered. I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said, ending the call. I turned back to Nathan. I believe you about returning my money. The rest. Madison and I need to talk. He nodded, looking suddenly tired. We all have decisions to make. As I rode the elevator down, I wondered which was worse, having a sister who would steal from you, or being the sister who might destroy a relationship, however flawed, that was important to someone you love. By the time I reached my car, I knew one thing for certain. After today, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. Madison was waiting outside her building when I arrived, pacing nervously in designer heels that clacked against the concrete. Her makeup was smudged, something I'd rarely seen, and her hands trembled as she unlocked her apartment door. I can explain everything, she began the moment we were inside. You can start by explaining why you stole my money, I said, remaining standing while she perched on the edge of her couch. I needed it, she admitted, not meeting my eyes. Things have gotten complicated. Complicated enough to justify theft? From your own sister. Madison pressed her fingers to her temples. Nathan doesn't know about my financial situation. If he found out before the wedding. He already knows, Madison. He showed me the credit card statements, the gambling debts, everything. All color drained from her face. He can't know. That's impossible. He found out last week. He was planning to confront you after some property closing on Friday. She collapsed back against the couch, eyes closed in defeat. Then it's over. Everything's ruined. Despite my anger, I felt an unwelcome pang of sympathy. Why, Madison? Why the gambling, the shopping? You've always been reckless with money, but this is different. You wouldn't understand. She laughed bitterly. Perfect Hazel with her perfect job and perfect discipline. Try me. Madison stared at the ceiling, tears leaking from the corners of her eyes. It started after Jason broke up with me last year. I felt so worthless. Shopping made me feel better. Then I tried online poker one night after too much wine. I won $5,000 my first time. It felt amazing, like I was finally good at something. But then I started losing. So you targeted Nathan because he was wealthy? She flinched. It wasn't like that. I genuinely fell for him. But yes, his money was a security blanket. A way to solve my problems without facing them. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from our mother. Family dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Non-negotiable. Madison's phone chimed seconds later. Did Mom text you too? She asked. I nodded, showing her the message. She must know something's wrong, Madison said. She has that weird sixth sense. Are you going to tell them what you did? Madison's laugh held no humor. Are you kidding? They'd crucify me. Like they'd ever hold you accountable for anything, I muttered. What's that supposed to mean? It means they've spent our entire lives excusing your behavior while holding me to impossible standards. If I had stolen from you, they'd never speak to me again. But you. I shook my head. They'll find a way to make it my fault for not helping my sister in her time of need. Madison studied me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Is that really how you see it? How else should I see it? She opened her mouth, closed it, then sighed. Maybe we should both skip dinner. And have them show up here? No thanks. I grabbed my purse, suddenly needing to be anywhere but in this apartment with the sister who had betrayed me so completely. Nathan promised to return my money today. I'll see you at Mom and Dad's tonight. What are you going to tell them? Madison called as I reached the door. I paused, hand on the doorknob. The truth, Madison. For once in this family, someone should tell the truth. The hours before dinner passed in a blur. Nathan sent confirmation that he'd transferred the full amount back to my account, accompanied by a brief message, I'm sorry for everything. Taking some time to think. I was grateful for the money but unsettled by what the evening might bring. My parents' house looked exactly as it always had, modest but well-maintained, with my mother's carefully tended flowers lining the walkway. As I parked behind my father's sedan, I spotted Madison's BMW already in the driveway. She'd arrived early, never a good sign. Mom opened the door before I could knock, wrapping me in a perfumed hug. There's my girl. Come in, come in. Your sister's already here. The dining room was set with the good china, another bad sign. Mom only used the wedding china when she was overcompensating for tension. Madison sat beside our father, both nursing glasses of red wine. Her eyes were puffy despite flawless makeup, but she'd pulled herself together remarkably well considering the morning's revelations. Hazel, my father nodded in greeting. Your mother made pot roast. Dinner began with strained small talk about the weather, my father's golf game, and my mother's book club. I pushed pot roast around my plate, waiting for the inevitable moment when the facade would crack. It came as my mother served apple pie. So, she began in that artificially bright tone she used when orchestrating difficult conversations. Madison tells us you two are having a little disagreement about the wedding. I nearly choked on my water. Is that what she calls stealing $43,000 from my bank account? A little disagreement. My father's fork clattered against his plate. What? Madison stared at her untouched pie. I was going to pay her back. With what money? I demanded. The money you lose gambling? The maxed out credit cards Nathan doesn't know about? Oh wait, he does know now. That's enough, Hazel, my mother interrupted. There's no need to be cruel. Cruel? She stole my life savings. Every dollar I've worked for since college. Madison says it was a misunderstanding, my father said, his tone suggesting I was overreacting. She thought you had agreed to help with wedding expenses. I stared at him in disbelief. In what world would I agree to empty my bank account for her wedding? You've always been so responsible with money, my mother said, as if this explained everything. And your sister's special day is important to all of us. More important than my financial security? Than the fact that I've been saving for a home for 7 years. Madison spoke up, her voice small. I was desperate. The creditors were threatening to call Nathan. I thought I could win it back before anyone noticed. So you admit it was theft, I said. I admit I made a mistake. Madison slammed her hand on the table. I'm trying to apologize. Apologizing would require acknowledging what you did and showing actual remorse, not manipulating our parents into defending you. Again. My father cleared his throat. Hazel, I understand you're upset. But family helps family. Your mother and I have discussed it, and we're prepared to loan you the money to replace what Madison borrowed. Borrowed? I echoed incredulously. And why should you loan me my own money? Why isn't Madison responsible for returning what she stole? Your sister is under a lot of pressure with the wedding, my mother explained, patting Madison's hand. She's not in a position to repay such a large sum right now. And I am? Because I worked hard and saved instead of gambling and maxing out credit cards. That's unfair, Hazel, my father frowned. Your sister has some challenges with money. She always has. We need to be understanding. Something snapped inside me, a lifetime of suppressed resentment bubbling to the surface. No, what's unfair is that my entire life, you've held me to a different standard than Madison. When I got a B+ in calculus, you questioned why it wasn't an A. When Madison failed chemistry, you blamed the teacher. When I wanted money for a school trip, I had to earn it. When Madison wanted a car, you bought it for her. That's not true, my mother protested weakly. It is true. Madison has never faced consequences for anything. Not when she crashed that car 3 months after you bought it. Not when she dropped out of college for a semester to find herself in Europe on your dime. And not now when she committed actual fraud. Madison's tears started flowing again. I never meant to hurt you, Hazel. I was desperate. Stop crying, Madison, I said tiredly. Your tears won't work this time. My father stood abruptly. I won't have you speaking to your sister this way. Not in my house. Of course you won't, I laughed bitterly. Heaven forbid Madison ever hear the truth about herself. The truth is that your sister made a mistake, my mother insisted. One she's sorry for. Why can't you just forgive her? Because she's not sorry she did it. She's sorry she got caught. And she's only sorry about that because now Nathan knows about her gambling and shopping addiction. Madison gasped. You told them. Someone had to. You're spinning a fantasy about wedding expenses when really you stole my money to cover gambling debts before Nathan discovered them. My parents exchanged alarmed looks. Gambling? My father repeated. Yes, gambling. Online poker, specifically. Plus shopping addiction. Ask her about the credit cards Nathan found. the pawn shop receipts for his possessions. All eyes turned to Madison, whose face had crumpled. I was going to get help after the wedding, she whispered. Nathan wasn't supposed to find out. The room fell silent as my parents processed this new information. Finally, my father spoke. Why didn't you come to us if you were in trouble, Madison? Because I was ashamed, she sobbed. And I knew you'd be disappointed in me. We could never be disappointed in you, sweetheart, my mother soothed, moving to embrace her. I watched this familiar scene with detached amazement. Even now, faced with irrefutable evidence of Madison's deception, my parents' instinct was to comfort her rather than hold her accountable. I'm leaving, I announced, standing up. Nathan has already returned my money, so you don't need to loan me anything. You're not leaving until we resolve this as a family, my father insisted. There's nothing to resolve. Madison stole from me. She lied to all of us. She needs professional help for her addictions, not another bailout. Don't you think you're being a little harsh? My mother asked. Your sister is clearly suffering. And I'm not? My own sister betrayed me in the worst possible way, and you're still taking her side. Just like you always have. We don't take sides, my father said firmly. Yes, you do. You always have. I grabbed my purse. Madison needs real help, not enabling. And I need a family that values me as much as they value her. As I walked out, I heard my mother call after me, disappointment heavy in her voice. I thought we raised you to be more forgiving, Hazel. I paused at the door, turning back one last time. You raised me to be responsible, to work hard, to clean up my own messes. Why doesn't that apply to Madison? The stunned silence was answer enough. I closed the door behind me, equal parts devastated and liberated. In the driveway, I checked my phone to find a message from Nathan. We need to talk. Tomorrow. Whatever tomorrow would bring, one thing was certain. I had finally spoken my truth after a lifetime of silence. Whether my family could hear it, or whether they even wanted to, remained to be seen. Nathan suggested meeting at a small coffee shop in Cambridge, neutral territory away from downtown and Madison's usual haunts. I arrived early, claiming a corner table with my back to the wall, a habit from childhood when I'd try to make myself invisible during family conflicts. He arrived precisely on time, dressed down in jeans and a sweater rather than his usual business attire. The casual clothes made him seem more human somehow, less the polished businessman and more a troubled man facing difficult decisions. Thank you for coming, he said, sliding into the seat across from me. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure either, I admitted. But after last night's family dinner from hell, I figured this conversation couldn't be worse. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. That bad? Worse. My parents offered to loan me money to replace what Madison stole, rather than hold her accountable. Nathan shook his head. I'm beginning to understand the dynamics that created Madison. Did you talk to her? Yes. He stared into his coffee. It was intense. She admitted everything once she realized I already knew. The gambling started about a year before we met. The shopping addiction has been lifelong, according to her. And you? What are you going to do? Nathan met my gaze directly. I called off the engagement this morning. Despite everything, I felt a pang of sadness for my sister. Because of the money issues? Partly. But mostly because our entire relationship has been built on deception. She was hiding her addictions. I was. He hesitated. Not fully committed? I supplied. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. He sighed heavily. What you saw in Chicago, it wasn't an isolated incident. Kristen wasn't the only one. There were others. The confirmation of what I'd suspected twisted in my chest. Poor Madison. For all her faults, she didn't deserve this. Why get engaged at all if you weren't ready to commit? Madison wanted it. Pushed for it, actually. And I thought. He trailed off, looking embarrassed. You thought being engaged to someone like Madison would be good for your image, I finished. The beautiful, charming wife for the ambitious developer. It sounds terrible when you say it out loud. Because it is terrible, Nathan. He didn't argue. For what it's worth, I did care for her. Still do. But we're poison for each other. My wandering eye fed her insecurities. Her spending and gambling triggered my control issues. We brought out the worst in each other. And now? Now I need to focus on becoming someone I can respect when I look in the mirror. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and placed it on the table. The transfer went through, but I wanted to give you this as well. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000. What's this for? I asked. Interest on the money Madison took, and an apology for my part in this mess. If I'd been honest with your sister from the beginning, perhaps things wouldn't have escalated to this point. I pushed the check back. I can't accept this. Please. Consider it closure. For both of us. After a moment's hesitation, I took the check. What will you tell people about the wedding? The truth. That we weren't right for each other and realized it before making a bigger mistake. He stood to leave. Madison will need support, Hazel. Real support, not enabling. I hope your family can provide that. I watched him walk away, feeling oddly hollow. For months, I'd seen Nathan as the villain in Madison's story. Now I wasn't sure there were any heroes, just flawed people making flawed choices. I was halfway home when Madison called. I almost let it go to voicemail, still raw from the previous night's family dinner, but something compelled me to answer. Nathan broke up with me, she said without preamble, her voice thick with tears. I know. I just met with him. Silence, then. Of course you did. Are you happy now? Now that you've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything, Madison. Your choices did that. Because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. You had to tell him about my problems. He already knew, Madison. I told you that yesterday. Her breathing was ragged on the other end of the line. I need to see you. Please. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her at my apartment. When I arrived, she was sitting on the floor outside my door, mascara streaked down her cheeks, looking nothing like the polished, perfect Madison who had laughed in my face 2 days ago. Inside, she paced my small living room like a caged animal while I made tea neither of us would drink. How could he do this to me? She demanded. 3 months before the wedding. Everyone will be talking about it. I'll be humiliated. I think you're missing the bigger picture here, Madison. Which is what, exactly? That you have serious problems that need addressing. Gambling addiction. Shopping addiction. Theft. She collapsed onto my couch. You sound like Nathan. He said he couldn't marry someone he couldn't trust with money. Can you blame him? Madison looked up at me, vulnerability replacing her usual defensive arrogance. What am I going to do, Hazel? I'm $90,000 in debt. The wedding deposits are non-refundable. I'll have to move out of my apartment. And now I don't even have you. What do you mean you don't have me? After what I did? Stealing from you? You must hate me. I sat beside her, careful to maintain some distance. I don't hate you, Madison. I'm hurt. Deeply hurt. And angry. And disappointed. But you're still my sister. A sister who stole your life savings. Yes. Her face crumpled again. I don't know who I am anymore, Hazel. This person who gambles away thousands, who lies and steals, that's not who I wanted to be. Who did you want to be? The question seemed to startle her. I don't know. Someone special. Someone who matters. You've always been special to our family. To me. Not the way you are. She wiped at her tears. You've always been the good one, the smart one. Mom and Dad might fuss over me, but they respect you. Everyone does. I stared at her in disbelief. Are you kidding? My entire life, I've lived in your shadow. You were always the pretty one, the popular one, the one everyone adored. Superficially, maybe. But I've never accomplished anything real. Not like you. Your career, your savings, your independence. I've just been playing pretend my whole life, waiting for someone to call my bluff. A bitter laugh escaped her. And now everyone has. For the first time, I saw past the perfect exterior Madison had maintained all these years, glimpsing the insecurity that drove her destructive behaviors. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it helped me understand. You need help, Madison. Professional help. She nodded, defeated. I know. Nathan said the same thing. He gave me the name of a treatment center before he left. And I called them. I have an assessment on Monday. She looked up at me, eyes red-rimmed but clearer than I'd seen them in years. Will you come with me? I don't think I can do it alone. It was the first time in our adult lives that Madison had asked for my help without manipulation or ulterior motives. Just a vulnerable request from a sister in crisis. Yes, I said finally. I'll come with you. She reached for my hand, and I let her take it, a tentative first step toward rebuilding what had been broken. Not just by the theft or the wedding drama, but by decades of family dynamics that had pitted us against each other rather than allowing us to be allies. I am sorry, Hazel, she whispered. For everything. Not just the money. For how I've treated you our whole lives. I know, I said, and for the first time, I believed her. 6 months after what my mother now diplomatically refers to as the incident, I sat in my new office, unpacking boxes of business cards that still felt surreal to hold. Hazel Reynolds, founder and creative director, they proclaimed in elegant silver lettering against midnight blue cardstock. Reynolds Digital Strategies was officially open for business. The road to this moment had been neither straight nor smooth. After the canceled engagement and Madison's entry into treatment for her gambling and shopping addictions, our family had been forced into uncomfortable but necessary conversations about patterns that had damaged us all. My parents initially resisted, clinging to their narrative of a perfect family with normal sisterly rivalry. But when Madison's therapist requested a family session and Madison herself detailed the toxic dynamics that had contributed to her addictions, they could no longer deny reality. We thought we were protecting Madison because she seemed more fragile, my father admitted during one particularly difficult session. But in reality, we were preventing her from developing resilience while putting unfair pressure on you, Hazel. My mother had struggled more with this recognition, but even she eventually acknowledged her role. I saw so much of myself in Madison, my insecurities, my need for approval. I think I overcompensated by giving her everything I wished I'd had. These admissions didn't magically heal decades of hurt, but they created space for something new to grow. I established clear boundaries, including declining my parents' offers of financial help with my new business. This venture needed to be entirely mine, built on my terms. The startup capital came instead from Nathan's interest check, combined with a portion of my recovered savings. The rest I used as originally intended. A down payment on a modest condo in Somerville, my first real home that belonged entirely to me. Madison completed a 90-day inpatient program, followed by ongoing outpatient therapy and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. She moved out of her luxury apartment into a practical one-bedroom she could afford on her newly steady income as an administrative assistant at a nonprofit, a job with lower pay but greater meaning than her previous roles. Our relationship remained a work in progress. Some days were easier than others. Trust, once shattered, could not be instantly restored, even with genuine remorse and changed behavior. Which is why today's coffee meeting felt significant. Madison had suggested it, our first one-on-one interaction outside of family therapy or group settings since the incident. The cafe was halfway between my new office and hers, a neutral location where we were meeting as equals, not as the roles we'd played our entire lives. Golden child and responsible one, taker and giver, hurricane and cleanup crew. I spotted her at a corner table, her appearance notably different from the Madison of a year ago. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect blowout, replaced by simple jeans, a comfortable sweater, and a more natural hairstyle. She looked younger somehow, but also more substantial, less a carefully constructed image, and more a real person. I ordered you a hazelnut latte, she said as I sat down. I remembered it's your favorite. This small consideration, Madison actually knowing and remembering something about me, shouldn't have felt revolutionary, but it did. Thanks. Congratulations on 6 months of recovery. She fingered the bronze chip hanging from a simple chain around her neck. One day at a time, as they say in the meetings. Some days are harder than others, but it's getting better. How's the job going? I love it, actually. Working with the youth literacy program feels meaningful in a way I never experienced before. Plus, my boss knows about my recovery and is supportive. She paused. And how's the business launch going? Terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. I signed my second client yesterday. That's amazing, Hazel. You're going to be incredibly successful. You always had that quiet determination. I studied her face for signs of the old Madison, the backhanded compliments, the subtle competitions, but found only genuine pride. Thank you for not giving up on me, she said after a moment. When I think about what I did to you, I wouldn't have blamed you for cutting me out of your life completely. I considered it, I admitted. But something my therapist said stuck with me. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about creating the possibility for a different future. Do you think we can have that? A different future as sisters? I considered the question carefully. I think we've both been playing roles assigned to us since childhood. Breaking those patterns takes conscious effort and time. But yes, I believe we can build something new. Something healthier. Madison reached across the table, tentatively offering her hand. I took it, feeling the significance of this simple gesture of connection. I know I need to earn back your trust, she said. And I'm committed to doing that however long it takes. Just keep doing the work, Madison. That's all any of us can do. As we finished our coffee and parted ways, Madison to a GA meeting, me to a client presentation, I reflected on the painful journey that had brought us to this point. The theft that had seemed like the end of our relationship had instead been the catalyst for its transformation. The wedding that never happened had cleared space for new beginnings of different kinds. I had learned that standing up for yourself doesn't mean losing your family. Sometimes it means giving them the opportunity to meet you as you truly are, not as the role you've played. I had discovered that financial independence wasn't just about having savings. It was about having the freedom to make choices aligned with my values, including the difficult choice to forgive when appropriate. Most importantly, I had found that sometimes the painful reckonings we most fear are exactly what we need to break dysfunctional patterns and build something authentic in their place. The road ahead with Madison and my parents would have its challenges. Trust is rebuilt in small moments of consistency over time, not in grand gestures or promises. But for the first time in my adult life, I felt hopeful about our family's future and certain about my place within it. Not as the responsible one, the overlooked one, or the reliable one. Just as Hazel, exactly as I am. What about you? Have you ever had to make the difficult choice between keeping the peace and standing up for yourself? How do you navigate forgiveness without allowing harmful patterns to continue? I'd love to hear your stories and wisdom in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories of personal growth through difficult circumstances, and share with someone who might be struggling with family boundaries. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most necessary healing.